the coach for the University of Indy swim team for my son, and I was driving down 65, and I see a 5-gallon bucket rolling across the road, and I'm like, oh, all right, that'll make it in front of me. I'm not going to hit that, and a semi alongside me hits its tire, and it's like, what was that Final Destination? It's like coming at my windshield, and then it swerves and totally slams into the side view mirror of my brand new Range Rover and completely shatters it. So that would have shattered my windshield. That would have been bad news, because it knocked the whole case off the mirror and then shattered the mirror itself. And with Range Rover, that'll be probably $20,000 repair. So that's about the closest you get to traffic in Indiana. Bring your luggage with you tomorrow. The shuttle will be doing airport runs for those of you that need to go. Who has between 4 to 6 p.m. flights? Yeah, so the shuttle will take you if you're later than that, depending on if you want to hang out or whatever you want to do. Just let the girls know and they'll help you coordinate your schedule. So Michael just found out the heat went out at his house, so he's going to take care of that. What's that? Oh, batteries. Okay, cool. In case we go out. Okay, questions from anything we covered yesterday? Can I repeat it all? I did pull up the video of Pastor John. I wanted to show you. It's hilarious. I did a Zoom, and I don't think he ever really understood the technology. But he's the one who did his first trailer flip.
So is this more like an interview?
Yeah. I'll just interview you. Okay, so I'm with a good friend of mine, John, and was this your first mobile home flip that you did?
It was very first flip of any kind that I did. Yeah. And I have on my screen. Go ahead. I have on my screen some pictures of this home. What did you pay for it? I paid $6,500 for it.
And
the story's kind of fun. I just found a yard sign, yard sale sign, and stopped by and asked the kid that was there if they were selling the mobile home. And he said, well, my grandpa is. And so I talked to the grandpa, and sure enough, he was willing to sell. He wanted $10,000 to begin with. And so I came back with $5,000, and we settled on $6,500. So.
All right. And can you go through the list of improvements that you had done on it?
Yeah. We resealed the roof. The kitchen sink was bad. It needed to be reglazed. The bathtub was really bad, and so we had it reglazed. And the surround in the bathtub was redone. Painted the exterior, sealed the roof, repaired the flooring and put in new carpet and new linoleum in the bathroom. The only floor that was still good was the kitchen flooring, and so we left that. It had a nice washer, dryer, new furnace, but it just mostly really needed a good cleaning and a little paint, and I think that was about it, as I recall.
Well, I have the budget up here on the screen. How did you find contractors for the work? Because obviously this was your first flip, so it's not like you had a crew of guys.
No, we had our own house built here about 2-3 years ago, and the fellow that did the painting had his own construction crew, and my wife, who's very perceptive, said, I ought to ask him if he'd be willing to work with you. And he agreed. We liked him early on, so he was kind of the contractor for most of it. I kind of acted as the general manager just to make sure things got done, but he was very, very helpful in the process.
Fantastic. So you can see from the screen here, John bought it for $6,500. His rehab, holding costs, everything is laid out there, itemized. He spent $12,402. So his total investment was $18,902 that he paid for with cash. How did you market it for buyers, John?
I used a real estate agent, the gal that helped us get our house. I used her. But the curious thing was that I put two signs in the front that just said, if you're interested in buying a house, call this number. And I had my phone number there. The sign said, if you're interested in selling me your home, call this number. And I had half a dozen people just from that little tiny sign, before the real estate agent put any sign out, that were calling me just for wanting to buy that house. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, affordable housing is in such hot demand. You're thinking about doing more of these, right? Obviously, the 88% return on investment is pretty strong.
Yeah, I felt really good about that. Yeah, I would like to do a few more.
Total timeline from start to finish?
About 3 months.
3 months. Okay, and if you had advice for others looking to get into this, you happen to be in Idaho for this one, but as you can see from that trailer, it's not very unique. There's homes like that all across the country. What advice would you have for somebody looking to get into this?
Do it. It's a fun process, and it's profitable. I mean, it's really good. I really enjoyed working with the old fellow that sold it to me, and the family that bought it had a real need. So not only did I make money, but I felt good about doing it in the process. So.
Fantastic. Well, John is not only someone who has read and gone through our mobile home training, but also a client of Alpine. So we consider him to be part of our family. He's been out to our event in Indianapolis a couple of times, 2 or 3 times.
Twice.
Yeah. So we were thrilled to see him do this project, and you know, it's never too late to start. It's never too late to learn these skills. Questions about his home that struck you while you're watching it? One thing, Jed, Yvonne, did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if I missed it. You said what you sold it for, I did.
Yeah, it was $35,500, so all cash. Now, here's one interesting wrinkle that I'll do sometimes is, you know, he was, what was he into it? 19, I think. His all-in was 19. Yeah. And he sold it for cash, $35K. One of the misconceptions everyone thinks is that, you know, where are you going to find somebody who'll live in a trailer park that has cash? So very, very, very common misconception, completely wrong. Don't underestimate, especially immigrant populations, saving power. You know, Hispanics do everything in cash. They save cash. They you know, combine families to save cash. First generation immigrants are cash based, and so you know, it's only Americans that are always broke, and that we never have at every level we're broke. We have no cash and we have no savings. We're going to talk about that this morning. But what if he would have said, one of the things that I'll do is I would say, you know, the cash price is $35,000, finance price is $50K, and said, you know, minimum down payment is $5,000. I'll never let anyone buy for $5K. And so if I get $5,000 down, now my basis drops to $14,000. Okay, and if you don't already have an amortization calculator downloaded onto your phone, make sure you download one, or a mortgage calculator, because then you can just plug in $45,000 I'll do something like that for like maybe 10 years. Interest rate 8%. So 45K at 10 years and 8% APR. That's a monthly payment of $545.97. And for how many months? 120 months. Now you can look at it a couple ways. You could say, all right, how many months will it take to get my $45,000 back? my $14,000 back, because you still leave $14,000 in the deal. So you divide $14,000 by $545.97. So how much to get the rest of my $14K back is 2 years, 26 months. So after 2 years, you're home free on this trailer. I've had some trailers that I've sold with financing 6, 7, 8 times. One of the cool things about financing a trailer is if they default, it is not a foreclosure. It's not on a permanent foundation. It's in a mobile home park. It's personal property. It's chattel. It's an eviction, essentially.
It's kind of like a lease to own.
No, it's financed. I'll put them on title. A lot of times the park will require that that you can't be rentals, that they have to be on title. So I'll put them, but it's like a DMV deed. So you put them on the DMV title, essentially is what the trailer title is, and then you put yourself as lien holder, just like your bank would do on your car loan, in your car title, right? And you just lease. And then if they stop paying, usually there's a lawyer that specializes in trailer evictions or trailer foreclosures. But again, the legal act, it's not a year foreclosure. It's like 90 days and they default, right? But it usually never goes to that, never. Usually it's like cash for keys or, Vaughn? No, title companies aren't really comfortable with because a trailer that's not on a permanent foundation is classed as chattel. CHATTEL, right? It's personal property. So even the loans for manufactured and mobile homes that are not on permanent foundation are called chattel loans. And it's a specialized loan type. Once it's on a permanent foundation, it becomes a modular home, and then it's just treated as a stick-built home, FHA. But look at the profit potential, because then you have, right? You have 120 payments minus 26 is break even. That means I have 94 payments at $545.97 a month. So now for the next 8 years, you make $51,000 and you have zero exposure because you got your money back. Your only exposure point is the first 2 years. Now, what if they trash it? Well, so what? He spent 15 grand the first time. You could always exit it at some point cash. Well, why would you? Right? The problem is banks. Why do banks not want to foreclose? Why is that not good for banks? Couple reasons. Yeah.
Typically, they don't want to hold the property. Right?
Yeah, they don't want the property. Banks don't. They don't want to own property. They're not in the real estate business. They don't have crews. They don't like to turn the utilities on. They hate it. It's a nightmare for them. It's just a liability. But that's not us. That's not us. We bought it to begin with. And so a foreclosure is not a bad thing when the numbers work for you. It's not what you want for them. You don't want them to lose the $5K and what they've paid, and I always try to work that out. I'm not trying to be a predatory lender here. But at the same time, I'm never particularly upset in a default situation because financially, it's off the hook. I always would rather finance for a higher amount because I'll just say, hey, my finance price is $50K. You got to have at least $5,000 down. Well, I'll discount it, $35,000 all cash. You decide. 8% is not usury. Nobody's pissed that I'm trying to. I've seen some guys are like, no, I'll just sell it for like $20K at 13% interest. People flip out when you tell them that. Okay. Let me show you another example. Yeah.
Is there some type of appraisal in this?
No, there's no such thing as valuations for trailers. The only time that they have an appraised value is when they're new. It's
How do you know what it would sell for?
what the most you can get. A lot of times, what I'll do is go, okay, the lot rent in the park is is $300. If I make the mortgage payment be about $500, sometimes I'll mess around with the amortization calculator to get like different payments. Because then what I'll say is, all right, this is a 2-bedroom trailer, for example. What would a 2-bedroom blue-collar rental be in that town? And let's say a two-bedroom blue-collar rental's $800 a month. Because then the mental narrative for that buyer is, do I rent a blue-collar 2-bedroom apartment for $800 a month, or can I become a homeowner for $845? That's how they think. As long as I'm with about $100 of what the fair market rent is in that little community, I'll actually say that to them sometimes. Now, I've had somebody say, well, yeah, I'll pay the home off, but then lot rent's forever. I'm like, yeah, if you live in a house, property tax is forever. Trash service is forever. You always have a fixed cost of property ownership. That's why I think, side tangent, I think property tax is one of the worst taxes that we have in this country because we really don't have true property ownership. Don't pay your property tax. You know who owns your property. It's the city, right? It's the county. So I hate a property tax as a taxation vehicle. But you always have a holding cost, even if you own your home free and clear. You always have a cost in a trailer. And actually in a trailer park, you get quite a bit more amenities because you'll get snow removal, trash service. A lot of times it includes water and sewer. So there's quite a bit more in a trailer park. Now, a trailer park's a trailer park, but affordable housing, that's why I love them. Yeah.
So we had talked about a lot dealing with, say, the mobile home park owner,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing the split bond, and you bought the trailer, you're paying the lot fees in the meantime,
Yep.
and so forth. So when you go to sell it,
A lot of times you'll have to apply for the park too. Like you'll have to, the park will require that you apply and qualify for the lot rent in the park. Fill out an application. I always like that when I fill out an application for a trailer park. Net worth $50 million. Monthly income, $600,000. No, I don't write that, but they'll pull my credit. You have 8. Why are you living here? Well, actually. But that becomes, so one of the things that we teach you in the online mobile home training, that's part of the Infinity package, is we spend quite a bit of time on how to talk to park managers, deal with park owners, set up shop in their park. That's a whole hour conversation. Yvonne, you guys just spent 2 days with Jed. You spent a lot of time on that. Yeah, they spent a lot of time on that with Jed because that's a whole, just like we were talking about with wholesaling, learning to close sellers on their properties, learning to find investors to buy it. There's a whole learning curve, learning to take lead calls and close. I was in Kansas City this week. I had my new intern out there, and I spent 2 hours with him teaching him how to close tenants on rentals. There's a skill to that. It's not just, do you want it? Do you qualify it? There's a definite skill to taking the leads, pre-screening people over the phone. And so navigating parks and managers and the different scenarios you encounter and what should make sense is a whole skill, but we walk you through that in that training.
you theoretically could end up owning the park if you did it right.
Absolutely. In fact, when I go into a park and I do a nice job on a trailer and a couple, and now, because what I say to the park, and one of the things we teach you is, I say, look, if this guy defaults on the mortgage to me, I'll continue to pay the lot rent to you. So you'll never be out the lot rent. You'll love me as a mobile home lender in your park. And sooner or later, I become the first person they talk to sell the park to as well.
Or other not lots, but other trailers that they're abandoned or whatever.
And that's why we set up the moving and setting company now in every market, because that's another way for me to create relationships with park owners. Because we have the moving and setting company for the trailers. We bought it's about $150,000 worth of equipment to pull them out, transport them from the manufacturing facility, set them in the park. Very few park owners do that business. No, it's like a hillbilly business that nobody wants to do. There isn't a training school in America that teaches you how to move and set homes. And so now Wall Street's getting in, and the list for moving and setting homes is ridiculous, and the profit margins are like 300% or 400%. I'm like, we're adding 4 of those businesses this year.
A lot of the parks are being bought up
by Wall Street funds because they can't get single-family homes anymore. Wall Street owns about 10% of the single-family homes in America. They've kind of put it on pause because home prices have appreciated, and they've turned their gaze. What's funny is when I came out here in 2004, everyone's like, what the hell are you doing leaving California? Why are you doing single family homes in Indiana? And then Wall Street starts buying houses, and they're like, we want to buy your Alpine Indy, your Alpine Dallas, your Alpine Kansas City. We want you to work for us. We're going to give you $300 million to buy more houses, right? And we found a way to not sell to them, but just sell properties to them. And now, 10 years later, I'm 3 years ahead of them in the mobile home space. And now I've been having conversations with my private equity partners about doing a raise for this, where you go and you buy parks, you put all brand new homes in, and you either finance the homes or sell them. Because traditionally, park owners never thought, they just wanted the lot rent. And now we're like, we're turning that on its head and kind of changing that. So, I tell you, it feels like 2005 all over again for me in that space. It's really interesting. Question?
So, if you're doing that in out of state, you don't have a construction, you don't know the locals for how to fix something. What is your
I wouldn't do this out of state. The only place you can't do this is in like Hawaii.
No, but let's say I found something in Indiana.
Yeah.
I'm living in California.
It's brutal. It's tough, man.
Brutal, right?
Yeah.
There's no way to really.
You can. It's just it increases your margin of error, right? Because if you're managing, because this is active income, and anytime you try to make active income long distance or quasi passive, then your failure points start to increase. And so your potential to get ripped off by a contractor, by a park manager, dealing with tenant buyers, it becomes difficult.
Have you thought of offering something like that for clients, maybe, or through you to?
Yeah, I mean, it brings up a great point, because a couple years ago I saw a company selling flips, right, in Alabama. And so they're like, we find amazing flips. You put in the $100 or the $100,000, and then you fund in the $20,000 in rehab, and we'll take care of it, and then we'll put it on MLS and sell it for you, and you'll make 20%. And I always thought, oh my God, if you can make, the problem in real estate is never finding money. It's finding deals. It's not a chicken or an egg. And when you get into real estate, you think, I don't know where I'm going to find the money. That's not the problem. There's unlimited money once you can find deals. Am I right, Travis?
100%.
Right?
Absolutely.
When we get in, we're like, I don't know where I'm going to get the money. Finding the money is easy. There's infinite number of Wall Street funds, rich people, family offices. Learning to find that is a whole other thing. That's one of the things we teach in the creative finance training, right? But look, there's people here in this room that would love to fund your deals. Right.
I would have no problem investing in that, right?
Right. So that's one of the things that I've been begging Michael. I'm like, as we've been talking about this partnership, I'm like, I've always shied away from syndications because the legal is so expensive for a non-attorney. And so as we've realized how much ridiculous demand, that's one of the things that we've discussed. I'm like, can you guys please just hire a syndication attorney? Put them in Utah, put them under your, and then we just roll out syndications. That's one of the things that we've been talking about with this offering. Because one-off, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because if you did do that, then like there's plenty of Anderson clients, not just me.
Absolutely.
Happy to invest in syndication.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've seriously discussed, because look, we know we can't, to go from 400 properties that we did in 2020 to 1,200 properties, single family homes, is ridiculous. Like Travis and I have nightmares about trying to double up in our operations. It doesn't happen, but we could easily add a trailer park development, distressed multifamily projects, and let people syndicate in. So yeah. Stay tuned.
Okay, so if let's hypothetically speaking go down that path. Let's say you did something. Would you have to be? So yesterday you were showing.
You would have to be Summit. Yeah, you'd have to be
Summit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that may
because you wouldn't have to be Summit, but we would make our offering to the Summit investors. Like it would be like a live stream for the Summits who want to syndicate in.
So again, that would be just even more incentive.
A more reason,
right? So like, if you said that, then that's easy, right?
It's a no-brainer, right?
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I just never. You guys see, like I never oversell. I'm not the hard close guy. Yeah.
Like today only. Come on, something like that.
Yeah, today only. It's like with properties, the reason that I have Megan do the strategy sessions is because I'm always like, don't buy anything this weekend. Just wait and get a feel for us. Like, I never sell. I'm the worst salesman ever. Like, I never push anything.
Yeah, that would be definitely incentive for me.
I get swept up into teaching. If I sit here another 2 hours, I'll give away the whole mobile home class, right? Meg was teasing me last night because Saket's like been a client for, he's one of our favorite clients. He's invested in hundreds of thousands of dollars with us. So last night I was like, yeah, dude, I'll send you the mobile home training and Megan heard me. She's like, stop giving away all of our education. I'm like, he's like our family, he owns a bunch of properties. Michael knows I'm the worst about that. So that's my resolution for 21, to stop giving away right, Trav? Trav and Megan are like clowning on me, dude.
It's just like what Toby does, right? It's like what Toby does.
Toby and I are the worst about that.
No, but hey, that's exactly why I'm a client. Because of Toby's offering is why I'm a client. Because again, he's going to get me back in on the taxes.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to come in that door, right, and then be a long-term customer.
Yeah, I love that. No, and like Toby and I have wealth guilt, right? Like we have stupid money. It's like remember in Scarface when he's like hiding cash everywhere, like under the. That's what it feels like some months. And but that's what one of the things that Toby and I both are really committed to is tithing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so Meg and I took over 100% of our tithe charitable giving, and we tithe to charities that we control. So like Meg has this funny thing. Anytime she takes one of the kids to the dentist, she and the dentist's wife strategize to pay off somebody's dental bill. And so yeah, it's like amazing. And so like she was there a few months ago, and the dentist's wife who runs the front, she's like, oh, I got this dad came in and his kid's teeth were all messed up and the dad's teeth are messed up. So my husband was like, Dad, let's get you in the chair and fix you up. And, he couldn't pay for it. And we said, just make payments. But, we'll probably just end up writing it off because, but he'll pay off the kids. And, and Meg cleared the whole bill, all the kids and his bill. And Meg's only deal with the wife is you got to tell me what they said, right? And the guy just cried on the phone. He just cried and he said, nobody does anything nice for me. But that's the kind of person you want to help because he's the one who's got his kids in there getting their teeth fixed, right? She pays off people's braces. My kids wanted to play water polo, and it's this husband and wife, and he loves water polo, and he sets up this club in the whole valley, and he doesn't want to charge too much because he wants to get as many kids in the club as possible. And I'm sitting in this parent meeting, and I'm like, you're going to charge only $300 for the whole season, right? And that's going to cover pool fees and tournament fees. And so afterwards, I went up to him, and I'm like, dude, yeah, like I got 10 grand for you to run this club. You're at 5 a.m. practices. You're teaching my kids, like, right? I'm like, you just don't tell anyone. Like that's my like I don't want it, right? I don't want my name, but good for you. Like you guys are doing such good things. So to be able to tithe back like that, that's the stuff that fills your soul, right? That's the stuff that makes having money worth it, right? But Toby and I talk about that all the time. Michael's big with that too. So. It's a real thing, yeah. Yeah, question?
For those of us that are new,
Yeah.
there's Anderson and there's Alpine and there's Infinity and now there's Summit. What's Summit?
So what we've done is we've combined, we realized that, Anderson's a law firm, tax firm, asset protection, Alpine's a real estate firm, and we've been working together for so long, we realized that we wanted a common starting point for the education to meet investors. So we set up Infinity, and let me show you the website. And
and out there, and we deal with a lot of people who take the education, right? And for the last 20 years, I've been astounded by how much people pay for education.
Yeah.
Right? And then I get to know some of the organizations and the people who are teaching that stuff, and they're teaching off of things that are 20 years old, 15 years old. They're not doers.
Oh yeah.
And it's like.
I see the value. I just didn't want to stop.
Yeah, so what we did was we wanted to make sure that we brought the educational price point down and give quality by people actually who do the stuff, and that was kind of the reason why we started Infinity.
Summit is the highest tier.
So
$2,500.
So starting in March, this event. So here's the Summit plan. So starting in March, then this event will be. Only people who are Summit will be able to access it. Now, our current clients are grandfathered in, right? You guys, you're here, so good. But then it includes with that, if you're already Infinity Advanced, then it includes everything in the Advanced, and then it ongoing includes access, and then it also includes the login to Aaron Adams training. So we'll log you in. We'll give you the online access for all of the classes that we have at Aaron Adams training as part of that. So,
I get it. I'm sorry to digress.
does that make sense?
I just didn't realize the advance was called Summit. I'm cool.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So that part is still dynamic, the name of the plans, because we've been like, we've had a lot of internal discussion because Michael and I think the names are confusing by design. It should be we were like, well, why don't you call it basic, which makes sense and it's free, stock, because that's the main emphasis, right? Infinity stock, you have access to Infinity, but it's focused on teaching you how to invest in the market, and then maybe Infinity real estate stock or master trade. I don't know, something like we've been working on. So don't hold me to those names. Yeah.
Just, I haven't heard mention of it, but in the Infinity plan that has the stock portion.
Yeah.
What is a couple sentence description of what that is?
Yeah, so it's not day trading. It's not option trading. We've seen a lot of investors really get their ass handed to them trying to do that. And it's really about how to, because, have you seen the Yale model? It's 30-30-30-10 of investing. When you look at like the highest net worth individuals in this country, typically they have about a third in real estate, a third in the market, a third in their business or a business like a private equity investment, and then 10% cash, right? So that's like how Yale's handled their endowment. And so we promote that same kind of passive type investment. And so with the stock portion, we teach investors the kind of, like index funds, like dividend paying stocks. We have a whole system that we teach about how to safely and conservatively invest and be in the market, because we're all in the market. My total, I'm probably a little heavier. I'm probably 50, right? But I have quite a bit in the market, and I have a lot in private equity, both as a partner, mostly as a principal, and in my business. So that's what we it's about educating investors about their money passively, and then if they want an active component, we've added that as well. And so the stock level, there's online trainings, there's techniques that they teach about, not how to trade options, but how to get your money in the market safely.
Is this through Mike?
No, because Mike's more active trading. Yeah, I know Mike, good dude.
Yeah, good dude.
But
Eric Dodds, I don't know if some of the people who've watched this trading, we do trading room. Eric Dodds, okay, so you know exactly. It's basically renting out your stocks that you buy. Get rich slowly. Again, that's kind of like our mantra, as opposed to do high risk. Collect rent on the stocks that you own.
It's just basically being a landlord for stock.
Yeah, just stock market.
Landlord for a house.
that's what it is.
Landlord for house. So it's gonna be like cost. It's gonna be cost.
Yeah.
Cost.
Yeah.
Doing it safely with dividends and doing it safely.
But
And that's-
even if you do active stock trading like I do, the classes are amazing. I mean, even for someone that's done other
It's a supplement, yeah.
because it gives you that stability. So the same thing that we do with the properties, it's that basic stability. You get that passive income, and then you worry about, if you want to be a crazy risk taker, do that too.
Yeah, Toby just got a book deal. It's with Forbes, right, Michael?
Yeah.
That's coming out really big. Forbes Books is rolling it out, and that was a really, really big thing. A lot of credibility for that. And so what we realize is because of the brand confusion, ideally we're going to push Infinity out as the first contact, because we just want to have a clean company that can help people, but not a seminar company behind it. It's a massive law firm, a massive tax firm, and a massive real estate firm. It cuts out the whole seminar middleman, that's the problem. You had all these seminar people. We're trying to blow up and destroy the seminar industry. We're trying to eliminate the Trump. Honestly, we have
a great disdain for a lot of them.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people pay a lot of money to lose a lot of money. And I get a little, even talking about it, I get irritated right now.
I'm so proud of like what we did with Pastor John. How cool is that story? The man had $200,000 total to live off of, and then he and his wife's Social Security. And now we've put him on a path. Now the other thing that we sold him was actually a note. So imagine I put a person in a home, and now you have this $45,000 note at 10 years at 8%. I just sold him one of the notes on one of my homes. So if any of you, I have a note on a brand new home in Idaho where they put $30,000 down. If you're interested in having that note as part of what you're picking up this weekend, I think we have 3 or 4 notes. Ask Megan about those. She can show you the notes that we have, because then you're just getting the mortgage payment. There's no maintenance, there's no taxes, there's no insurance. It's just a check every month. And then if they default, imagine the brand new home that I put in Idaho, custom built, ordered, manufactured home in Idaho for this husband and wife. They put $30,000 down. I mean, you would love for them to default, because then we just resell it again, right? But they're not going to default because they put $30,000 down and they custom ordered the home. And so you're just making a clean 8%, and that one's like a 20-year note. So Meg has 3 or 4 of those. Ask her about the notes. I have a $40,000 down payment one on a brand new home in Kansas City, a $30K down payment on one in Idaho. I'm just getting the mortgage payments right now with my money, but I'm happy to sell that note to you. Yeah.
What is it? Is that like taking a second on a home or something?
Well, it's like in this example that I gave. If I were to have sold that home for $50K with $5,000 down, I would have a note that they owe me for $45,000, and so I'm happy to sell you that note.
You're essentially selling the bank note.
Yeah,
You're becoming the bank.
yeah, I'm selling the obligation.
Right.
So instead of them sending me the $545.97 every month, I let them send you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then if they default, I give you the option. If they default, I'll go in and I'll fix it back up and resell it. And if you want, you can fund it in, because usually it gets profitable because then you resell it again for the higher amount with the higher down payment, right? So it's a lot easier than owning a rental. Now you lose the tax benefits, you lose appreciation, But for someone like Pastor John, who only had $200,000, he's on a fixed income. He needs to be on a fixed income. A note was a cleaner, component to what he was doing. Yeah. Yeah, and great for an IRA.
So if they default,
What's that?
if they default, you still own the property?
Yeah, because you're on the title as the lien holder, and so if they make the payments, you just have a lawyer foreclose on them.
Right. And so the note holder is the.
It's either your IRA or
We own the deed, right? In other words, we own the home.
yeah, they go on title as the owner
Right.
because they move in. They're the owner,
But we own the deed.
and then you're on the title as the lien holder.
But do we own the house?
They own the house. They become homeowner
Right, but if
Okay.
they default, you,
because the lien holder can foreclose.
the lien, so you're out of the picture.
Me, yeah.
Okay.
Except for usually they're in parks that I own, so I'm the park owner. Yeah, you like that? I own that Residence Inn you guys are staying at.
The thing is,
I own everything.
I can't tell if you're serious or not.
With partners. I don't own anything, but if you see that LLC tied to a Wyoming company that has my name on it.
And you record that note?
Yeah, it depends. If it's in, so like I have 20 homes down in Fort Myer, and they're in a park that I don't own. And in that case, I recorded, when I sold those notes to my clients, I recorded their entity as lien holder on title, right? But if it's in my park, sometimes I'll just leave title in your entity's name, give the buyer the paperwork. That's, but unless they request it or they want to go down and file it, sometimes I delay that.
And what difference are in different states? I know that there's states that they're like, I don't know if they're mortgage states.
Well, remember with a mobile home, in most states they're treated like automobiles. So a lot of times the titles are held at the DMV. In California, they have a mobile home division that holds the titles. In Idaho, they're held at the DMV. In Kansas City, they're held at the DMV.
Yeah,
they're treated like
if it's a home, like a single family home.
yeah.
And I'm doing it in Florida. I know that there's like a mortgage or deed state. I don't know how to say.
Yeah, but we're talking about notes on mobile homes, not on houses. Yeah. You got to be really careful with notes on single-family homes because then you're crossing over into truth in lending. if I were to put a homeowner in a home and then sell that note, then I would have a whole different set of criteria that I would need to follow because of truth in lending mortgages. Yeah.
Do you have the documentation? I leave here, I put this situation together. Do you have all the legal documents?
Yeah, so one of the things that, so what we do with the trainings is it's a la carte. So the training that we give you as part of the Infinity Summit is the online training. Then if you wanted, for an extra $100, you could buy a Dropbox that has all of the documents. And then if you wanted, you could spend, a couple $1,000 to come to a live training. Like, we let you decide how much more you want or need. So we make it a la carte. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So with Wall Street and Bill Gates buying up all the land and properties and stuff, do you anticipate any issues as far as shortages in the future? I know every time there's the market changes, everybody says, oh, there's not going to be anything left, real estate can't buy anymore. But do you foresee anything like that happening?
No. I mean, look, one of the things that I think we'll see over the next 10 years, let me show you. Okay, if you look at home ownership rates in this country going back 100 years. So here's the home ownership rate by percent. You can see from 1900 to right after World War II, home ownership dropped to like 38%. So we were a nation of renters. And what's interesting about what only 4 in 10 Americans were homeowners is that we didn't have subsidized mortgages like we have now. The reason we saw this big jump is Fannie and Freddie. The government said, hey, we don't have enough Americans that are homeowners. Let's do 3% down. Let's do FHA. Let's do mortgage insurance. Let's help Americans own homes. Okay? I would make the case that that was the problem, because over here you have a more pure economic environment. If you wanted a mortgage in 1910, you went to the local bank. Usually they required 30, 40% down. And then they charged, it was like a 7 to 10 year mortgage. And part of the problem, one of the good things about that is that your home is a liability. And most people will be better off paying a fixed rental amount and then investing the rest of their money. Because what we as Americans do when we can borrow to own a home, we end up spending 40 or 50 years of our life paying interest that could be going into a retirement account or accumulating investments for us. We put decks on our homes. We put pools in our homes. We put extensions on our homes. When markets are down and we have to sell, we lose money. A home's a liability. A home doesn't pay you. You pay into a home. Your mortgage is usually paid from the sweat from your job. Whereas if you think about a rental property, my tenant goes to their job the first 10 days of the month and works to earn the rent money to pay me. So my tenant is literally my employee for the first 10 days of the month. And if I have a mortgage on that rental property, my tenant's paying for that mortgage. But when I pay my own mortgage, that's why it's a liability. I pay for it. Just because you may, like Meg and I sold that house for $875, we had bought it for $5. We spent every bit of $400,000 on that thing. Plantation shutters, pools. I mean, we definitely lost money on that house. This is my worst investment. My new house is my new worst investment because Meg wants to put a $400,000 pool house in.
So we can come up with targets.
Look at this thing. You want to see it? I have heartburn. 2,400 square foot pool house.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
I have anxiety.
I want her to have this.
You think she deserves it?
Yes, I want her
This liability?
That's beautiful.
It's tell her it's ugly. Tell her you hate it.
Is that the servants' quarters as well?
It's the servants' court. You know Meg's heart. She wants to talk her dad into moving in because he's got a lot of health problems. He's got leukemia, so she wants to move her dad in, which I totally support that.
I see a balcony to jump off the pool.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've been thinking. That's a liability, right? So yeah, I earmarked $400K. That's not going into investments. That's not making rent. That's
really neat.
Now, because this was a California model, we're actually going to glass enclose because Idaho, right?
So is that just a pool house?
That's the pool house and the pool that we're putting in our backyard.
That's not even the house.
I have the plans for that house. But of course, you know, the 800 square feet wasn't enough. We were doing a walkout basement on ours. That's what. Right. But that's a liability. Everything about that house is a liability. That's not an asset. Because think about it, I'll dump $400,000 into that pool. If I kept that $400,000 in investments in Indiana, I could make 20 to 40% a year on that.
Then you'd have to live in a mobile.
That's true. And so I personally I think this was a mistake. Just the two cents of Aaron Adams, the history major. I think that the idea that home ownership is better for the majority of Americans is a mistake, because here's what Americans do. They become house poor on their primary residence, and they do that at the expense of their retirement. And then they become car poor, because when you look at consumer debt, number 2 is auto loans. And so Americans are sucking up 50% of their income for their leased BMW and the mortgage they can't really afford. And they're like, well, it's free money, it's cheap money, it's not even inflation. Right, but if you take half your money every month and use it for a liability that's your house and a liability that's your car, and then the rest goes to food and insurance, we're not saving enough and we're not investing. And that's why our baby boomers are the brokest, poorest generation of Americans we've ever seen. That's the problem. And so I could see this trend continuing and and I don't think it's a bad thing. I honestly don't think it's a bad thing, because we as Americans have horrific financial education. That's one of the things we're trying to fix with Infinity, is to provide legitimate, and that's why we have the basic membership, so people can start to get financial education. That's why it's free. That's part of our 10% give back. Is we're spending tens of thousands of dollars on that website, on the offerings, on the content we're putting in there, because we want people to have free education. We all, as partners, really believe in that. And so, I mean, look at our boomers right now. Okay, look how broke our boomers are. 1 in 5, 20% of our 65 and olders only have Social Security to live off of for their retirement. $12.50 a month. They're living off of that. Now, the parents of the boomers have pensions, right? But corporate America realized that shit won't fly. That was no bueno, because people keep living longer and longer. You know, they started pensions right around 1900. Amex had the first pension. And then Henry Ford said, that's a good idea. Let's do a pension. You know, when they're 65, they retire. What was the median lifespan in 1900? 66? 67? You know, in 1935, they said, let's do Social Security. It was like 68. Give them a check for 3 years. Now it's 82, 83. And so in the 1960s, corporate America started going, okay, they're living a long time. And we've been putting aside this money to give them a check, guaranteed, and then when they die, their spouse gets the check, and they're living a long time. And now, as our math nerds are telling us that our pension is underfunded, and that we're not making enough money on the pension. And so that's why in 1972, 1973, they said, we got this new thing. Congress is going to pass 401ks, IRAs.
Don't know how to invest.
Right. That's the problem. That's where our system started to break in the early 70s. Now, I see why corporate America is like, you know, hey guys, Congress, you guys got to lobby. We got to create another financial institution so we can just match what they put in, and then they take it, and then get out of here. They take it when they leave.
So why didn't the public education system incorporate these sorts of classes to help educate our youth?
Depends on who you talk to.
It's a great question.
Conspiracy theories fly.
It's a great question, you know? Now, you listen to guys like Grant. Anybody heard of Grant Cardone?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the way that he spins it is that that we've left our we don't educate our Americans because banks created mortgages so that Americans would always need them and always make them rich. And car loans, that they created the debt because but yeah, then you get into crazy conspiracy theories. Regardless, I tend to focus more on the reality of the situation and what the opportunities are as an investor. But I mean, even look at this. 90% of our boomers, Social Security is a third of their retirement. 50%. So basically, people are living 20% are living off of $1,200 a month. 90% of are living off of like $3K a month. 60% are living off of $2,500 a month. Who can't imagine living off of only $3,000 a month in retirement? Who cannot imagine that? I know, right? Yeah, that's the reality, though. Now, that's why, again, can you see why I see mobile and manufactured homes as a viable? Because I see it all the time. They're like thinking, okay, if I rent this mobile home or if I finance it and buy it from Aaron, as long as my principal, interest, utilities, insurance, my housing can be covered by my Social Security check, then my kids will help me out with a couple $100 for food, right? I mean, that's what we're seeing. Those are the kind of sacrifices that people are making. It's a travesty, and the retirement system in this country is broke. It's not serving us, and that's why you see. Just look at debt. When I graduated high school in 1990, there was only $24 billion in student loans, and in 2020, it's $1.6 trillion. That's a 6,500% increase in the amount of debt that's being borrowed. We don't have 6,500% more college students. Now, there has been ridiculous tuition inflation, almost criminal tuition inflation.
Yeah, that's also the same thing for the government. For housing, they just did it to students, right? That's exactly.
Yeah, the government backed it. They didn't educate us on it. Tuition's $30,000 a year. It doesn't matter that you have a worthless communications degree that you won't be able to make $30,000 a year with. Go ahead and borrow $120K.
Well, the schools did exactly what the stock market did.
Absolutely. The schools are like, we do it because we can. Because nobody's holding us in check. Imagine if you could bankrupt your student loans off. Imagine if they just added that, if they took that, because right now you can't bankrupt them off. They follow you like bad luggage. You just never get rid of it. Imagine if you could bankrupt your student loans, how that would change the lending climate. Because you'd have a bunch of lenders like, no, forget that.
It would change education costs too.
I mean, think about Bank of Idaho. When somebody comes in and says, I want a mortgage, we're like, okay, we just have to make sure it conforms to Fannie Mae guidelines, because the second that loan funds, we're going to sell it. We ain't keeping it at the Bank of Idaho. Now, this year it's been really interesting because the idea behind commercial property has always been, if I buy a Class A Walgreens, right? If I buy a Class A Walgreens, because it's a triple net lease, see how much I educated you on yesterday? Because I don't have to pay taxes, insurance, or maintenance. It's a very fixed return. Like, let's say I buy it for $1 million. I'd be willing to accept like 4 cap. I'd be willing to accept like 4% on my $1 million because it's a 10-year triple net lease. I'm never going to have any headaches, and so I'm just going to make 4% of my money. Does that make sense? You with me? Mm-hmm. But this year's trend, and so banks also said, okay, well, we'll charge 6% or 7% on those commercial properties, and because we're making them put 40% down, because our borrow rate as a bank is so cheap now, we're only paying like 1% on that money, and we can charge 6% for a 4-cap loan. Let's keep that loan in-house at Bank of Idaho, and we'll service that loan. We'll accept the payments. We'll keep the interest. We'll use the bank's money. We won't sell that paper like we do with the mortgages, the single-family homes. So banks are feeling ridiculous stress this year because think of all the Olive Gardens that have closed. I've been watching this like, like right? Because it doesn't affect me. I wasn't in the commercial. I mean, I dabble in commercial. I have this building and I got 3 more buildings here in town. Doesn't affect me. So I'm like, oh, what's this going to do? Like, it's been blowing my mind because the stress on small banks holding commercial paper is unprecedented.
You got 24 hours, gap. A lot of companies that are not even paying those lenders.
It's going to be really interesting, man. Think of all the shops that haven't been paying their mortgage this year and have had to go through forbearance. People think it's the single family. It's not in the rentals. The blue collar people, they're making louder. If I was a bartender a year ago, I'm just at an Amazon services warehouse right now, or I'm at for every restaurant manager that's unemployed, there's a grocery store manager that made his biggest check ever. We've still had to spend in the economy. That hasn't gone away. Just certain industries are getting hammered because COVID, and most of it's retail. So that's a huge black swan that we haven't seen. That's going to be interesting. Now, what do I think will happen? Well, now Biden's in, I think they'll just there'll be a handout. There'll be now great video homework for you guys to watch.
If you're holding a Walgreens right now, you can serve like Amazon Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Or CVS.
Well, you know what's interesting is like Simon Properties is one of the biggest mall owners in America. They started here, based here. They've been having serious conversations with Walmart and Amazon about repurposing a lot of their anchor store space as distribution centers. So if you want to see a great K through 12 video about how money works in this country, Ray Dalio, How the Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. Great educational starting point. I think it's a 20-minute video. Ray Dalio is one of my heroes. He's the private equity god. If Warren Buffett's the god of public equities, Ray Dalio is the god of private equity. Bridgewater, his company, his book Principles is one of my favorite business books. I love this guy, and I love the way he's handled this. He's like just giving back, and like he's a hero. And this How the Economic Machine Works explains how our money works in this country. And one of the biggest gaps in education is we don't even understand how currency and debt work in this country. And if you don't have a working knowledge of that, it makes it really hard to navigate. Learning how money works, learning how loans work, learning how debt works, and how our economic system works is a big step to becoming educated financially. And so if you get a chance, watch this. And all of his videos are great. It's like my favorite thing at the gym, just to put one on and listen to it. Yeah.
And have you looked at his all-weather portfolios?
Yes.
How does that compare to a Yale portfolio?
Very, very similar. Yeah. Ray's just the man, dude.
Because I love this concept of risk.
Yeah. Well, and I love like the way that he allows his employees to have active disagreement. You could be a day one employee and you can disagree with Ray. They have rules for disagreeing and arguing and deciding, what they're going to do as a company. And I love that. I tried to mirror a lot of that in the way that we interact here. We never disagree here, right, Trav?
Never.
Trav just giggles. Right? No, we do. Yeah, it never bothers me. But people don't like to argue with me.
You yell.
Yeah, I do. I don't yell. Okay. So, circling back on Americans and their money. And this is where I want to loop Michael in. Where is that slide? Okay. I want to talk about the different vehicles that they can use to diversify your retirement money into real estate. But before we get into that, I want to show you actually a video.
You're gonna do your YouTube video?
Yeah. Yeah, Hillary, you wanna country, and I had a slide on, let me make this a little bigger, because I had a slide about fidelity. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. Okay, so fidelity. How many of you have retirement money with Fidelity? See, about mirrors room. Okay, so look at this. There's about $28 trillion in the U.S. retirement accounts. $28 trillion. And Fidelity has about 7 to 8 trillion of it. So Fidelity is managing about a third of American retirement accounts. Think about that for a minute. 1 in 3. Now, Fidelity was started by the Johnson family. Edward C. Johnson founded it in 1946. And we don't really know how much money they make because they're privately held. Talk about the elephant in the living room. And so when I talk about managed retirement accounts, I usually just say Fidelity because they're, you have a lot about it. Who has non-Fidelity 401k? Who manages your accounts? Vanguard. Okay, Schwab's a big one. All right, so I want to talk for a minute because educationally I feel like there's a huge gap in the way that you've thought about your managed retirement money. I want to address that, and then I want to show you this video. Because here's where the Fidelities are brilliant. They got you to think that was okay to pay fees on the gross amount of money. Bear with me for a sec. So you have $100,000 with them, and they say, no, we don't charge very much. We just charge 1.5%. Of what? Of the profit? No. Of all the money that you have with us on the gross. We just charge 1.5% of the gross. What's that?
Repeatedly, they charge you on that.
Yeah, every year. Now, I wish I could do that for property management. That'd be so awesome.
It doesn't matter, up or down.
Like,
up or down, we're charging you that.
Yeah, I mean, think about 2008. 2008, the average American went from 100K. So in 2007, they're like, now, here's the other thing Fidelity does. So Fidelity spends hundreds of $millions on lobbyists. They have a whole law firm that they're like, okay, here's what we need to lobby on this year. This year, we need you to attack. They're making us call this a management fee. We don't want to call it a management fee. Because if we don't call it a management fee, then we can just say, we only charge you 1.5%. What we're really charging them is about 4% a year. But the way that we do it is we call it a share price. When they log into their Fidelity account, they just see a share price. Right? And we can divide the share price by 360 days a year and then just adjust it every day so that it works out to be, because God forbid we put $100,000 minus $3,500 in fees. We don't want that, because our guy in the Fidelity office needs to be able to say, we only charge 1.5%, very low fees, 1.5%. And we teach that guy never to say of the gross every year. We don't say that. And the other stuff is not fees, those are just non-fees. And by law, we need a lobby to not have to disclose those. But if they were smart enough to do the math, they would see that every year it's about 3.5%. Yeah.
When you say managing act as somebody, a financial planner or management manager? What's the next?
Well, it's all different scenarios, but like a lot of people who, company, you have your 401k and you sit down with HR when you get hired and they're like, you're young, so you should be aggressive. So check that box. And then it's aggressively managed. And then, maybe in 20 years, you're like, oh my God, I'm not making any money unless I contribute and my employer matches. Because see, that's when it gets confusing because you're like, money comes out of your check and it goes in. And then there's a match and you're like, all right, it's getting bigger every year. But you know who's not making it bigger? Fidelity. And I read a 15-year study and they said, okay, so let's go back in 15-year segments. Because then if we go back in only 10 years, if you go back 10 years from now, we haven't had a market crash. If we go back in 15-year tranches, that will capture market crashes, right? Because if you just go 10 years, you're like, back to 2011, it looks amazing. Fidelity's kicking ass. But if you go back to 28, the average American lost 40%. And imagine in 2007 when they charged you $3,500 on your 100K, and then the market crashed and there was 50K in there, and they sent you another middle finger and charged you, $1,700 for the privilege of losing 50 grand.
It's even better, right? Because now they're charging on any mutual fund as well. On the front end,
Yes.
and back load. So if you sell out, they charge you a fee. If you buy in, they charge you a fee. And that's outside of the fee for the mansion fee.
And imagine if I was like, hey, you bought a house from me for $100,000, so I get to charge you $1,500. I mean, when I charge you on the rent, I'm charging you on the profit. I get 10% of the profit that I make for you, and if the rent doesn't come in, I still got to pay my managers. I still got to go do a budget on your house. I still have to update your portal. I still have to pay all those bills until I get it. I only get paid again when it gets rented. Does that make sense? In fact, it's most expensive for me when they're, from a labor standpoint, when they're not paying the rent. I want to be Fidelity when I grow up. I mean, not really, but here's the problem. We all got jobs, we all got retirement accounts, and we were just told that's how it is. We've all been taught to believe that paying on the gross is normal. And not being able to read your statement is normal. I had a student in here 6 years ago. She's a fiduciary. Not a fiduciary. She's what's it called? The people that work in insurance companies that calculate the problem. Actuary. She's an actuary. So she was a math undergrad. And she was an actuary for a big insurance company. And she said, Aaron, I've spent 3 months trying to calculate the return that Fidelity made for me on my money. And I've had to go back to HR several times for questions and Fidelity because she's like, I don't have enough information from the statement to calculate what they made for me, minus the fees they charged me, what they made on my contribution and my employee contribution. But the studies that I've seen have shown that typically they make about 4% a year for you, minus about 3% fees, so you're making about 1%.
As long as it looks like it's going up,
that's all. I had another client. He's like, it's funny. He said, I did a Janus IRA 10 years ago. I put $1,000 in there, and I've had it in there for 10 years. I didn't put any money in, and I didn't take any money away. And he's like, I have the statement. He showed it to us, and it was still $1,000, right? Because as long as Fidelity's like, as long as we don't lose, as long as it doesn't go down. But then when the market crashes, we blame that on the market. That wasn't our fault. That was the mortgage crisis. We send you birthday cards and come to your kids' soccer games, right? So that's an educational gap, because when you think about using a solo 401k, what's the fee? What's the annual fee structure, Michael? Somebody sets up a solo 401k. What are they paying a year for that?
Zero.
Zero.
I mean, you can't you can't even pay yourself. Like, it can't be anybody because you're the trustee.
Yeah, you're the trustee, so there's no fee. So you spend a couple $1,000 to set it up, and then there's no fee. Now you're like, well, maybe I don't want to be the trustee. That's a lot. Okay, well, we have IRA Club, who's a trustee, that's happy to babysit it for you for about $300 a year.
But you want to be the trustee.
Yeah.
No, you do, because you guys are learning how to invest. You might as well take control and be able to buy a property when you want to buy a property without going through a custodian or another trustee, especially in today's market. If you have to wait 10 to 14 days like you do with a self-directed or a custodian account, you're probably not going to get that deal, are you?
Now, if you look at all the retirement accounts that are out there, only about 3% are self-directed. Only about 3%. It's the rich people. Because guess what percentage of the 28 trillion is in those accounts? 30% of all the money is in those self-directed accounts. Mitt Romney's got over $400 million in a self-directed retirement account. I mean, I've been making 40% a year on my Roth. Meg has a SEP that she can put $50,000 a year in. She's making about 20%. We fight about that. Why is yours killing mine? I don't know. It's just like, I seem to get better deals. Kidding, don't say that. We need to have a circle of trust. Right?
So can you set up a QRP if you already have a custodial account through work?
Yeah, so one of the things, you're not limited by the number of retirement accounts you have. The only thing you're limited is contribution. So who doesn't have a Roth? You should have a Roth. You could have a Roth, you could have a solo 401k, and there's different benefits associated with both. I have both. Meg has a SEP, and she has a Roth. And
your solo 401k will have a Roth component to it. That's the beauty of a solo 401k.
And you can make equal contributions to all of them?
You can make contributions.
Total contributions.
Yeah.
Not to exceed.
That's what I thought.
But you can overfund it and then move money over into the Roth. It's really good, kind of cool stuff to do.
Yeah.
Done the back doors.
Not necessarily the back door.
So what we'll do is so I want to show you this video really quick because so we had a client here. He worked for a Fortune 500 company, and he was sitting here on Saturday morning. We were having this conversation, and he goes, "No, I'm not paying 3%." I was like, "What do you mean?" Yeah, no, I'm managed by one of the big funds, but I don't pay that because my rep is he's like my guy. He's my best friend. We've been friends since we were 15, and he doesn't charge. I don't pay any fees. Mine's been growing with no fees. I'm like, sorry, bro, bullshit, wrong. You're paying 3%. It's a big firm. It wasn't Fidelity, but it was one of the Fidelities, right? It was which one do you guys? It was Schwab. He's like, I don't pay Schwab. I'm like, yes, you do. And I said, no. What a lot of people don't realize is Schwab may charge you 3% a year. Now, they don't call it 3% because someone will always come up to me on the break and be like, Aaron, no, I pay 1%. Okay, yeah, Schwab calls it 1% fees, but there's another 2% in chargebacks. Every time they send you a statement in the mail, you pay for that. That's just another chargeback that they're allowed to deduct from your principal or the profits they make you. You just don't realize it. Because they lobbied for what had to be on their statements. That was a whole lobby. What they could leave off. What they don't have to disclose. So I said, no, what happens is usually if you have like your local guy, they'll charge you another 1%. And they're like, I only charge 1%. So what your guy probably does, since he's really your guy, is he probably just doesn't charge you the markup. But he gets paid from Fidelity for you keeping your $1 million there because he had $1 million. He's like, Aaron, I had $1 million. Are you telling me that I'm paying $30,000 a year? He's like, I've been with, and he's like, if I go back and look at what I would have had, he's like, then I want to throw up. And I said, yeah, let's look at that. I'm like, let's look at that, because this is really interesting. So I had, let's see, where is that? So that's down here. I'm really organized with my slides. I said, let's not look at your $1 million. Let's just look at $1,000. And he goes, okay. So I brought up this financial calculator. I said, look, I'm going to just show you really simple. If you put in $1,000 and just left it there for 65 years and you made 8%, and because it's in a retirement account, it grows tax-free, right? You don't pay any taxes on that 8% a year. Then after 65 years, you'd have 150 grand. And let's just say that Schwab is charging you 2.5%. And you look at the same compound interest calculator and you say $1,000 in 65 years, 8% minus 2.5 is 5.5%. So your true net, after they take their 2.5% a year out, is only $32,000. I go, who took all the risk? You did. And who got all the profits? Because what they say is, hey, we're only even if, let's say they were honest and like, we charge 2.5% of the gross. But what is 2.5%? What percentage of the profits is that? Okay? And when you look at the profits you would make on those fees, 80% of your returns go to the fund manager over 65 years. And he's like, well, 65 years is like kind of, nobody's doing it. I said, okay, it's the same math, bro. If you look at 1,000 for 45 years, it's 31,000. 1,000 for 45 years, 2.5%, it's 11,000. It's the same math. You take all the risk, they get all the profits, they invest their money, they make you nothing, they make you 4%, but if they make you 4% and charge you 3%, they're keeping 75% of the profits. That's criminal. He's like, I feel like an idiot. I'm like, you shouldn't, because no one has ever educated you on this. We just thought that was the reality because all of us grew up, none of us have pensions anymore. This is just we grow up. We're financially ignorant. No one's ever K through 12 it that way. And when I got it in my brain, I was like, oh my God, it's horrible. That just the way they're charging the fees and the way that they explain it to you, they make it sound dismissive.
What is your feeling about working with fiduciary that only charges 1%?
Yeah, I love fiduciaries. Yeah, but one of the things that Obama was trying to run through was that all financial advisors had to be fiduciaries, because a fiduciary is bound by law to give you advice in your best interest. And Obama had legislation pending in 2015 that would have required all financial advisors to be fiduciaries. And one of the first things the Trump administration did was toss that legislation, whether or not it comes back. But yeah, I like it's not financial services, it's the Fidelities, it's the big boys. I'm sure if you have a guy, they're very well intentioned. And my friend's guy, he marched downstairs and he was out there, and his wife, she was just like, oh my God. And he was on his cell phone. And then he texts her, and she's like, he's texting me, I gotta go. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna leave the event. And he's like, and so I'm like, let's take a break. It's like in our house, for years it was just me and my boys, and I really am not a yeller. I swear at them, quietly. Very scared. But gingers with ginger daughters, mothers and daughters, man. So they're my stepkids, their last name's Daly. I call it Daily TV because my boys, I'll be like listening down the stairs while they're fighting. You know, one of them will come up upstairs. I'm like, who's she talking to? She'll see me. She'll be like, get out of here. You know? I love eavesdropping on that. Mothers and daughters, man. She doesn't yell at me that way. Meg and I never fight, but those daughters get her in a way. She doesn't yell at her son that way. The boy, like we were at Hawaii together and we had this small, like this 3-bedroom house, so we were all like kind of on top of each other. At one point, my boys and I are like on the couch, like, and they're yelling in the other room, like, let's go to the beach. Like, it gives me anxiety because I'm not, and we're not going to talk about that though, right? Circle of trust. So his friend wasn't charging him the 1% fee. He was waiving the fee, but he was still paying the 3%. And he's like, you should have told me. They, rolled over all of his money into a solo 401k and bought 10 houses from us. Yeah, so that was cool. But I felt bad because, when he went back and did the math, it's not good. All right, so the video that I want to show you, so last week Tonight with John Oliver, it's on HBO. The show got popular, and they said, we want to do a retirement for our employees. And so they started working with John Hancock, and they tried to put together a plan, but there's very smart people at the show, and they realized it was all bullshit. And so they did a show on the retirement industry talking about some of these things. Now, it's kind of funny. I want to just show you a few minutes of it because it kind of reiterates some of the things that we've been talking about.